Welcome back. Earlier today, I went to Israel's Hatzor Air Base, the temporary home now to some 2,500 U.S. troops participating in the biannual Juniper Cobra missile defense drill here. U.S. Air Force Colonel Justin Hickman, Chief of Staff of Joint Task Force Israel, and Lieutenant Colonel Tal Kaduri, Cooperation Chief for the Israeli Air Defense Force, spoke about bilateral plans to fight side by side in defense against the growing rocket and missile threat, and how, given Iran's activities region-wide, it's no longer hypothetical to expect significant numbers of U.S. forces to be deployed here in times of war. Let's watch. Colonel Justin Hickman and Lieutenant Colonel Tal Kaduri, thank you so much for taking time in the middle of this major exercise to speak with us. And let me start with you, Tal. What are the goals of this year's Juniper Cobra drill? And is the direct involvement of Iran in the Syrian theater driving your combat scenarios?
Okay, so I think I can start with saying it's not just the involvement in Syria or involvement everywhere, because we understand that Iran is involved in a lot of places, not just Syria. Has his arms spread around in a lot of places in the Middle East. And we can safely say that that's our main threat. And the exercise itself and the goals are goals that we developed together for the last year. Something we did together, working in conferences and agreed upon. But you're right, the main one is Iran, as you said. And the goal is to see how both forces, US and IS, can answer the threats or the evolving threats that Iran is posing and other adversaries that we have around.
Colonel Hickman, anything to expand upon that? The purpose of this drill indeed is to operate as a joint task force side by side with Israeli forces, right?
So I would say that we are very happy to be here again at Juniper Cobra. It's the ninth Juniper Cobra exercise we've done between the IDF and UCOM. Tal and I have worked together. This is my third time working with Tal. Very happy to be here. It's a great exercise for us to get challenging training, work on our relationships, our speed of interoperability. And the first week has been a challenge already, and I'm looking forward to the next week.
How real are the prospects that the U.S. will fight alongside Israel in a real joint task force during the next war in the north?
So we use the joint task force format. It allows us to bring soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines together. We can train that way. It's in our doctrine. And then as soon as we get here, the IDF and Israeli Air Force, Israeli Air Defense Forces, all of us are working together in a combined effort. And those relationships, you have to build them over time. You just can't just show up and be like, the first time I've been here. And so we practice this every 2 years. We have the regular scheduled conferences where we plan this out. And I'm happy to say that it's already a challenge. It's only been a couple of days, and that's good. It makes us better.
Tal, this year there seems to be a slightly smaller number of U.S. troops actually here on the ground. Does that more accurately reflect the actual size of a joint force that will be required in operations?
I don't think it's a big change from the last time. I think the main thing is to understand is we are joining forces not just here in Israel. For practicing purposes, we also joining forces that are stationed currently at UCOM over there in Germany. So we connected them via interoperability and communication lines. So the fact that they are not physically here doesn't mean that they are not participating. So even if you don't see them on ground, they are there. So the mission is much, much bigger, and you have all those players, even if they're not physically here, participating.
And Tal, again, given the growing quantity and quality of the threats that Israel faces, what's your working assumption regarding the salvo strikes that Israel will have to absorb in the next war in the north? Dozens a day? Hundreds a day?
So we won't go into specific numbers, but we understand that the enemy is always trying to get ahead and increase the numbers, increase the volume, increase the salvos. We know what happened in Protective Edge, which was just Gaza. And with Gaza, it was roughly like some dozens. And we understand that the north could be much, much higher than that. Add to that, not just the North, but also Iran playing that from the East. And we will deal with hundreds, if not more, targets in the same time. And that's actually the reason, and that's the reason why we have what we're doing right now. Joining all forces together, all be in this system, US and IS, to make sure that we defend Israel the best way.
Justin, tell us about which U.S. systems have been deployed here. We know there's a Patriot battery, which is no trivial matter, but what about the other ship-based and land-based assets?
So it was a large effort. We had a lot of help from the Israelis as well as moving our gear here in country. We brought a Patriot battery to do training. I think you can kind of hear the generators behind you, Barbara. And that is realistic training for our soldiers to bring the gear here, work it through mobility, set it back up, and then the interoperability, again, partnership, working together with our Israeli partners. I know behind you have some Arrow and David Sling on display, and that's for us, it's how we can learn from the Israelis. You know, there's a lot of back and forth where how we can improve our tactics, techniques, and procedures as we work together.
And Tal, please tell us about the different phases that are planned for this exercise.
So we started actually a few weeks ago with the first phase, as Colonel Hickman stated. Bringing in the forces is also an effort. They come here either by sea or by air, and our forces meet them over there at the airports, take them. We move convoys here and put them in positions. The next phase we did is we actually took the forces themselves and deployed the field. I think anyone that heard on the news last week also heard some traffic going on because of a big exercise. So yeah, that was us. We caused some traffic jams in some places. And now this upcoming 2 weeks, we are working a simulation, a big simulation with all the forces. And we'll conclude it in a few weeks by sending the forces back away and hopefully doing also another combined element or even a combined live fire. Yeah.
Are all these preparations for a real combined war moving beyond the hypothetical into the realm of reality?
So I'll tell you, that's one thing that's good about this exercise is working with the Israelis to develop a scenario that is challenging and it matches what we think could happen. So we are always preparing our soldiers, sailor, airmen, and Marine to be ready for any threat out there that would be a threat to our partners, to our allies, or to America itself.
Colonel Hickman, how real are the prospects that the U.S. and Israel will actually be fighting side by side, not in simulated drills, but in real combat situations?
So I don't know if it's going to be a scenario in the near term, but that's part of what we have to do is be ready to deploy or train anywhere in the world at any time that our nation would ask us to go forward, and to go forward and to support our allies and partners.
Colonel Hickman, the U.S. has been exceedingly generous in helping to fund Israel's multi-layered active defense system to the tune of billions of dollars over the past 20 years, and now there's a commitment for $500 million each year for the next 10 years. It's obvious how Israel can benefit from this financing, but how does the U.S. benefit from this enormous U.S. investment?
From my perspective, it's what we learn from each other. I tell my children that the American way is not the only way. You know, that you can get out there and you can talk to other people and see things from different perspectives. The technology, the minds that get behind this, you know, I'm just an operator, but the people that build these systems, Iron Dome, David Sling, Patriot, Aegis, amazing technology.
I think I can only say that we are always interesting to learn things all across the world. And I think the U.S. is busy all around, also in the Pacific, also there, so they're very, very busy. We are not doing any direct, coordination with anyone but the U.S. So I think the main thing to understand is we basically learn from each other, U.S. from us and us from you. And to emphasize one thing on, this is not just a JC exercise. For us, we call it a dress rehearsal because we understand that this can happen and this could be activated at any given moment. So for us, it's not just an exercise.